The mission of this course is to raise your knowledge of infrared photography enough to get you off to a great start and be successful with infrared photography. We'll go beyond introductory in this course so that you have a strong knowledge foundation to realize benefits from infrared photography as soon as possible. Well, the premise is that if you see positive results with infrared photography early, there's a higher probability of embracing this very interesting branch of photography. This is an excellent time to dive into infrared photography because the amount of information on the internet and in books is greater than ever before. There are many wonderful examples of images made from infrared radiation that both inspire and teach. Digital cameras have made infrared photography possible like never before, and image processing software has lowered the difficulty of processing your infrared image captures. While the resources are there, we still need to practice infrared photography well to get value from it. Well, while the information about infrared photography is readily available, I've noticed that teaching the practical application of infrared photography is often missing. Learning about infrared radiation and camera conversion is all part of the journey. But if we are to actually get good results, we need to practice shooting for infrared with knowledge, with a knowledge foundation that can be directly applied. The alternative is to get some idea about infrared photography, but not enough to take any real action. As with anything worth doing, there are challenges with infrared photography. One challenge is understanding the technical aspects of your digital camera well enough to get consistently good results. The other challenge is breaking the habit of color while shooting for infrared. You'll practice photography principles just as you would with color photography, but with an understanding of the unique characteristics of infrared radiation. There's also the challenge of processing your infrared images, which is much easier when you bring home good field captures, as I'll teach you in this course. Well, infrared photography is the application of a camera control, photography principles, and creative image making within the spectrum of radiation that is not visible to humans. When these challenges are met, you're well on your way to success with infrared photography. Well, what's interesting about infrared photography is that the better you are at it, the more you want to practice it. And the more you practice it, the more benefits you realize from it. Understanding filtering and how to control your converted camera is one of the keys to success with infrared photography. The other key to success is developing the ability to visualize a scene in infrared radiation. Add to these the application of photography principles. Combined, these keys unlock wonderful opportunities for creating unique and memorable images that few can claim. Well, in infrared photography, if it's so good, why isn't every photographer practicing it? Well, I've made two observations in the years that I've been practicing infrared photography. It was once a branch of photography that was hard to break into. Camera conversion was expensive, image processing software was expensive and required scaling a steep learning curve. Incorrect information and myths circulated and were repeated by those who not fully qualified to be talking about infrared photography. But that's all changed. The cost and technical barriers are much lower now, and misinformation is being replaced by those who have actual experience with infrared photography. I've also observed that color photography is so pervasive that it's hard to break the habit of thinking in color. With infrared photography, we peer into a realm of invisible radiation. Our world is bathed in electromagnetic radiation that our human vision can't see. But we can map invisible radiation to human perceivable tones, which is the underlying principle of infrared photography. Well, once we know how to do this mapping, we are empowered to record an unseen reality. The biggest barrier to getting into infrared photography is learning how to map invisible radiation to human perceivable tones. To be good at infrared radiation map making, we need to fight the habit of thinking in color. What waits for those who make it past the color photography habit is a branch of photography that expands and revitalizes their photography through the ability to create remarkable and memorable images that few can claim. Well, is infrared photography right for you? Well, you won't know until you actually catch the passion. To know for sure, you need to learn it and practice it long enough to feel its lure. You can never appreciate my interest in infrared photography. You have to develop your own interest. But it's okay if you don't catch the passion. Infrared photography is not for everyone. All I can hope to do in this course is to get you on the right track. You'll take it from there. Well, getting you on the right track is what we'll try to accomplish in this course. And we'll do that with some theory so that you better understand the application of infrared photography principles. I'll display a number of my own images to help you see the possibilities. But the real goal of this course is to get you out there shooting for infrared so that you can create remarkable and memorable images of your own. Well, we'll start by explaining what digital infrared photography is, what it really is. Then we'll delve into its benefits. We'll go over some scientific concepts to help you better understand the spectrum of radiation we'll be working with. We'll then go into filters and the behavior of infrared radiation. This will take us into discussing the digital camera for infrared photography and how to come home with good field captures. Now, by the time you're done with this course, you should be ready to put infrared photography to practical use in your own photography journey. And, of course, be successful and catch the passion. So, if you're ready, let's dig in by discussing what infrared photography really is. I'll see you there. You know, the common description of infrared photography is the taking of photos in light that humans can't see. That's partially true, but sells infrared photography way short of its possibilities. First, you can't photograph invisible light, given that the term light is defined as radiation that stimulates vision. By that definition, radiation that you can't see is not light. We can't actually take photos of radiation that is invisible to humans. If we could, the image would be invisible to us, if that's possible. A better description of infrared photography, one that makes it much more clear what you are trying to accomplish, is this. Infrared photography is the process of mapping radiation that humans can't perceive to tones that are within human perception. Well, basically, infrared photography is the process of mapping the energy of photons within a certain portion of the radiation spectrum to photographic tones that our human visual system is able to interpret. Infrared photography is the process of mapping the energy of photons to tones that we understand. Well, we use filters to restrict digital cameras to the portion of the radiation spectrum that we are interested in. Then we exploit the design of the standard digital camera to accomplish tone mapping. And that about sums it up. That about sums up what infrared photography is. It's the mapping of a portion of the radiation spectrum to human perceivable tones through the exploitation of photographic digital camera design. Image processing takes it from there. Well, as it turns out, the digital camera that you bought has just one small part away from being able to record radiation in the near infrared spectrum. Camera manufacturers have long been placing a filter in front of camera sensors, digital camera sensors, to cut the radiation beyond the visible spectrum. They just never told us about that part. When we remove or replace that sensor filter, we enable the camera's sensor to record well into the near infrared spectrum, opening up a whole new world of photographic possibilities that we have been denied all this time. It's the images that can be produced with infrared photography that we seek, which opens up creative opportunities with our photography. That helps us enhance our journey in photography. That helps us define or refine our photographic style. And we can explore our unseen world, helping us appreciate the colorful world by seeing it differently. Infrared photography is also a delicious challenge that helps us grow as photographers and image creators. The interesting thing about infrared photography is that it is a highly personal endeavor. Your results depend upon what you want from it and the effort you put into it. I can tell you from experience that the more photographs you take in the radiation spectrum that humans can't see, the better you become at photographing in the visible spectrum that humans can see. The more infrared images you create, the more you appreciate what you can do with image processing. And the more unique images you create, the more you want to create. On the more technical level, the more you work with the camera converted for infrared, the more you appreciate the inner workings of the digital camera to aid in your color photography. Well, you know, infrared photography is addictive. The ability to obtain images from unseen radiation is fascinating. The ability to create unique and memorable images is endless. The improvement in your understanding of color is valuable. And the potential to refine your photographic style is very attractive. These are the benefits that just keep you wanting to keep shooting for infrared. Eventually, the gear that you prefer to take on the photo outing is the camera that you had converted for infrared. At least that's what I've found true for myself. You know, infrared photography is over 100 years old now, yet relatively few have discovered its benefits. Even though digital cameras have made infrared photography much more accessible, photographers are kept in color think by digital cameras designed as color recording devices. You, however, by virtue of you attending this course, stand at the threshold of a wonderful personal experience with this creative branch of photography. Well, if you recall, a few minutes ago, I made the statement that we exploit the color-based design of a digital camera for shooting in infrared. Well, let me explain. The digital camera is designed to translate radiation intensity to human perceivable tones, as well as encode color. This effectively maps photon energy to tones and colors that are within human perception. In infrared photography, we exploit the digital camera's tone and color encoding capabilities to produce images from radiation that is not visible to humans. This can be tricky, given that even a camera converted for infrared still makes a concerted effort to record in color. As such, the mapping of infrared radiation is not accurate because the camera's color-based design impacts the mapping process. However, with informed camera control and image processing, you can leverage these mapping inaccuracies to produce unique images that would not otherwise be possible. The goal is to think digital infrared photography as a creative photographic technique rather than a technical method of recording invisible radiation. Ironically, we must understand the digital camera and some science concepts of infrared if we are to understand the creative radiation mapping process. Now, if you can grasp the preceding explanation, you've already learned a great deal just a few minutes into this course. From here, learning about digital infrared photography is a matter of understanding how to leverage infrared radiation mapping to your advantage. Once you accomplish that, you are in a position to create remarkable images that had, well, been out of your reach in all this time. Well, the keys to success with digital infrared photography is to understand filtering, to control the portion of the radiation spectrum striking the camera's sensor, the radiation spectrum that you are interested in. Then leverage and control the functions of the camera that have been modified, the camera that's been modified for infrared. The application of photographic principles such as aperture, shutter, and ISO remains much the same as in color photography. Your goal is to create images that can be creatively processed. Well, let's dive a bit deeper into how to be successful with infrared photography in the next session. I'll see you there. In the previous session, I described infrared photography as the process of mapping near-infrared radiation which is not visible to humans, to tones that are recognized by humans. But the mapping process is not accurate because the color camera, a digital camera, was not originally designed to record in the infrared spectrum. For this reason, the color digital camera is actually attempting to map radiation with no color to a color image. As it turns out, that's how we can get creative with shooting for infrared. Understanding and leveraging this imperfect mapping process is the foundation of your success with infrared photography. Your success with infrared photography will also have much to do with understanding various technical subjects. Such as how your color camera functions in the infrared spectrum. Or perhaps it would be more accurate to say that how your color camera malfunctions in the infrared spectrum. At any rate, the technicals are easily learned. What isn't so easy getting your mind around is to stop thinking in color when you shoot for infrared. You need to visualize the scene in infrared radiation because your camera can't. Well, being a color and an infrared photographer is like getting out of a car with automatic transmission and jumping into a car with manual transmission. You need to change how you operate the car if you were to get out of the driveway. As an infrared photographer, you are a map maker of invisible radiation. Well, that's your destination, to use the car analogy. Your job is to record invisible radiation with a photographic instrument that is essentially broken. And that's exactly what a color camera that has been converted to infrared is. It's a broken camera. But as it turns out, that's how we get unique images that not too many can claim. Is infrared photography worth the effort? Well, the answer is yes, as long as you are realizing benefits for you personally. And yes, if you practice it well enough to get image results that you like. When you no longer enjoy the benefits of infrared photography, well, it loses its charm. The idea is to keep moving forward toward personal benefits with infrared photography. And the sooner you realize some benefits, the further you'll want to take infrared photography. So, how deeply should you learn infrared photography? Well, the short answer is to the extent that you are realizing benefits for you at any particular stage of your own photographic journey. The challenge is to break through the initial barriers to entry, which can be summarized as gaining foundational knowledge, getting equipped to record in the infrared spectrum, and actually taking infrared images that are of value to you. Then you are well on your way to enjoying the benefits. From my own experience, I can assure you that the more you practice infrared photography, the more benefits you'll realize. You may, like myself and others, find infrared photography a wonderful expansion of your photography. You may one day consider infrared photography equally as important as your color photography. Well, is digital infrared photography easy? Well, I won't kid you, it's not inherently easy because it's not the color photography that you are familiar with. You have to keep reminding yourself that you are a map maker of invisible radiation using a modified color recording device, which we call a camera. It gets easier after you grasp the fundamentals. It gets easier when you start being able to control how your final images look. It gets easier the more you practice it. But habits formed from your color photography may actually impede your progress with infrared photography. You might think that having a good handle on the principles of photography will help you learn infrared photography. But that may not actually be true in your case. It really depends upon, largely upon how you practice color photography. If you shoot with your camera in auto mode and can't break out of the auto mode habit, you will be frustrated with infrared photography. If you resist learning technical subjects pertaining to photography, you will not develop the necessary skills to control the camera that has been modified for infrared. If you are a staunch photography rule follower, you may not allow yourself to be creative, which is unique to infrared photography. If you are a snap shooter, you may not allow yourself the time to perform mindful composition of a scene for infrared. None of this means that you have to give up the idea of infrared photography, but it does mean that you should be prepared to give up some of the habits that were formed during your color photography. Your success with infrared photography has much to do with your ability to change your approach to photography as you alternate between color and infrared photography. Like the car analogy, if you keep forgetting that the clutch pedal has a different function than the brake pedal, driving is going to be a frustrating experience. Well, infrared photography has its challenges. It will require you to break color photography habits. It will challenge your personal photographic style because you are not as in control of image captures as you might be with your color photography. And it will require you to understand your camera like you never did before, and so you have to compensate for the color design of a camera that's been modified for infrared. These are challenging conditions for many. But for those who embrace these challenges, a wonderful personal journey awaits in this creative branch of photography. In fact, if you embrace digital infrared photography, you will remain in the minority because it requires an effort that most are not willing to put forth. On group photo shoots, it's a good chance you'll be the only one shooting for infrared. At your camera club, your converted camera will be a curiosity, but few will follow your lead. Your photography buddy will not understand your fascination with infrared photography, although will be supportive. Infrared photography is a personal affair that is appreciated best by those who practice it. Is it worth putting in the effort? Yes, when you start realizing what you can do with it. But it's like any destination worth the effort. You have to trudge through the weeds to get to the garden. What I want to accomplish in this course is to give you enough information to get you off to a good start, but not so much information that you become overwhelmed and discouraged. I will not try to make you a master of infrared photography. You'll do that yourself if you stick with it. I won't sugarcoat the effort that will be needed. The effort depends entirely on how far you want to take infrared photography. I will, however, give you foundational information to give you off to a great start and a good chance of success. I'll display plenty of examples of my own work to help you get a sense of the possibility. Success with infrared photography requires a combination of the following. be able to visualize a scene as it will map in infrared, have a low resistance to learning technical subjects, exercise knowledgeable control of your camera, have an interest in creative image making, and be willing to process your images, and have a low tolerance for failed images, and keep shooting and keep learning. In time, you'll develop skills for each of these success elements. They don't all develop at once. There is no magic involved. It takes focus and practice. I'm still learning in all of these areas myself. In my case, I wrestle with tolerance for failed images. I'm hard on myself for coming home with infrared captures that, for one reason or another, I messed up in the field. But that's how I learn. To do well in infrared photography, you need to get your head wrapped around it. You will become a good mapper of invisible radiation with an understanding of the fundamentals. Frustration is reduced with knowledge. Skill development results from practice. Failed captures are learning opportunities, while successful images are the fruit of your journey. The benefits realized by persistence in infrared photography spills over to your color photography as well. I can tell you that infrared photography is absolutely worth it once you start seeing tangible benefits for you personally. It becomes addictive. Over time, you accumulate images that get better and better. They are memorable images because you put effort into them. Your knowledge of the digital camera will increase. You'll get better at image processing. The irony is that you become a better color photography of the visible spectrum while learning infrared photography. Well, please join me in the next session when we'll consider the benefits of infrared photography. I'll see you there. You know, like with most things in life, we remain interested in that which yields us benefits. We stay on the job for opportunity and income. We buy cars because they transport us to places we want to go. We maintain friendships to share interests. We photograph to preserve memories and as a creative outlet. Infrared photography is no different. When we benefit from it, we continue to pursue it. Well, one of the benefits of infrared photography is that you develop an improved appreciation for how objects look in the visible spectrum, which is commonly referred to as light. The definition of light is radiation that simulates sight. For this reason, the portion of the infrared radiation spectrum that we are interested in is considered invisible. It is not light, but it does have energy. This portion of the spectrum is called near infrared. It's called near because it's just beyond the visible spectrum in terms of wavelength measurement. And we'll go into that more in an upcoming session. The important point here is that by understanding how the various spectrums interact with the elements and objects in the scenes that we photograph, we develop improved compositional skills. And that's a benefit that photographers appreciate. We'll get back to this topic later in the course. Well, on the aesthetic level, infrared photography is a pathway to a unique form of creative photography. It's an opportunity to put some creative spark in our photography if it has become a bit too routine. It's a way to build new skills in photography. It helps us define photographic style. It's a way to have some fun with photography. Of course, different people will discover different benefits of infrared photography. But of course, benefits are enjoyed only by those who give infrared photography a good try. Well, there's a practical value for infrared photography as well. We can create images that inspire us and build out our portfolios. It helps develop new photography skills and improves old skills. Even commercial opportunities become possible. But in my opinion, the improvement of color photography, our color photography, remains the best practical value of all, followed closely by the ability to create remarkable images. For image making, shooting for infrared provides a number of possibilities. We can create images that are familiar yet unfamiliar at the same time. Such images excite the imagination of those who view our work because the elements in the images are familiar yet unfamiliar. We can experiment with color without being confined to the color of the scene that we photograph. We can expand our image-making creativity, freed of the color we expect to see, and of course that our color cameras will deliver. These image-making freedoms become more and more clear the further we take infrared photography. Well, the benefits that you enjoy with infrared photography depend upon the extent to which you take it and what you want from it. But like anything, the more you know about infrared photography, the more you are able to leverage it to produce the images that you want. Well, since human vision can't perceive the infrared portion of the spectrum, it therefore has no color. Color is a human interpretation of the different radiation wavelengths that we categorize, or I should say science categorizes as blue, green, and red. There is no blue, green, or red in the infrared spectrum of the radiation. However, using filters, we can allow a camera to record some of the red from the visible spectrum. This gives our images a color tint that we can use to manipulate colors of our images. As it turns out, this is a powerful method for leveraging color despite working in a colorless portion of the spectrum. Rather ironic. I bring this up now to set the stage for understanding how color gets into images that are presumably recordings of colorless radiation. Understanding this one concept will empower you to create remarkable images as you move forward with infrared photography. Well, please join me in the next session as we discuss some science concepts of infrared photography. I'll see you there.